Welcome to the Smarter Science of Slim, the scientifically proven program where you eat more and exercise less to burn fat and boost health.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor back with another bonus Smarter Science of Slim podcast. And I hope you're sitting down for this show because it is going to be a passion-packed show. Today's guest is she inspires people literally all around the world. You've seen her all over national television, all over everywhere, helping people to live better lives through whole natural foods. And it's just brilliant. She's got great energy. She's got a great spirit, a great soul. And she's a registered nurse and she's an author. Her most recent book is called The Omni Diet, New York Times bestselling, which is really exciting. You can learn more about her at the website, which is also her name, TanaAmen.com. Tana, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much.
Well,
Very
Tana,
excited to be here.
You are just full of passion about this message.
I really am, because it's very personal to me. A lot of people don't realize just how personal it is.
So if you don't mind, let's get personal. Why this is about more than just writing books to you? Like, why?
Well, what people don't realize is that I created this program out of desperation to heal my own health. So the Omni Diet is the program that we use at the Amen clinics. We have 6 psychiatric clinics where we really treat more than psychiatric, conditions. We really treat the whole people. And we start with nutrition. And that's a huge component of what we do. And so this is the program that we use in our clinics. But really, I started this as a way to heal myself because I suffered with terrible health from the time I was a very, very young child. And I was really sick of it. So I went on this health crusade. And as a nurse, I'm very science driven. And I wanted to know, what role does food play? Because I was tired of having doctors put me on this laundry list of medication. And I have nothing against medication, but I just wanted to know, look, is there a better way? What is the way? And what role does food and lifestyle play?
One of the things that resonated especially with me is you can tell that you are focused on results. Like, you can tell people talk about plant-based, science-based. I think there's also this new field that no one really talks about, but maybe in spirit is results-based. Like, you just wanted to feel better. And because of that, your routine or your lifestyle that you talk about, it's not this or that. It doesn't fit neatly into some of these established camps. You talk about a 70-30 plant to protein model. Can you talk a little bit about that and the focus on results?
Yeah, well, I call it a bipartisan plan because it really bridges the gap between the extremes. I don't know, Jonathan, if you have ever been in a room with vegans and meat eaters, but there will be a food fight. It's the craziest thing I have ever seen. But people fight more about food than they do about politics or religion. And frankly, your body doesn't care. It needs what it needs. And the sad part is that I did those extremes. I did both extremes. I was a vegan for years because I thought that, there was some science that showed that all plant-based diets were great for you. And they are good for a lot of things. But then there was science that showed that the high protein diets did a lot of good too. And then I went, you know what? I don't want to cut out either one of these any of these benefits when it comes to my health. I want it all. And so I went on this crusade. I figured out what was the best of each of these worlds because I didn't do well on a vegan diet. And guess what? I got some benefits on the high protein diet, but there were some things that were missing. So I went on this crusade, figured out what the best of both worlds were, put it together, and then but I wanted it to be science driven, so I did do the research. And recently, Woman's World did an interview with me, and I was on the doctor show as well. And they tagged my diet, the doctor's diet. And I loved it because they interviewed Mehmet Oz, they interviewed, the doctors that are on the doctor's show. They interviewed my husband. They interviewed all of these doctors, and they asked them, what is it that you think is the healthiest? And guess what they said? A semi-vegetarian program that's about 70% plant-based with some high-quality protein.
Well, it sounds like
and
it's
that's
really
what the science is showing.
And it's just focused, and it's the irony is it's this radical simplicity. It seems on the far side of complexity, right? Because when you dig through all the science, at the end of the day, it says eat that which provides the most nutrients and the least of all the garbage. And that comes from both plants and animals, just the highest quality of each. It's not either or, it's a both and. Just focus on the upper ends, right?
Right. So you add the things that heal, you get rid of the things that poison. I mean, and I dared to venture into the middle of the road. Wow. I mean, what a concept.
Well, and that is so different though, right? Because for such a long time, what you just mentioned, this whole heal first is very different from the eat less. I mean, that's really just drink less contaminated water. Like literally, if you're drinking contaminated water, the message would be just drink less of that contaminated water. No. We're saying drink more pure, crystalline, healing, healthy water, not just deprive yourself of less of the garbage. It's pursuing the positive rather than attacking the negative, right?
Oh, yes, you absolutely have to do both. So you've got to add the things that heal as well as get rid of the things that hurt. And the interesting thing is that this idea, people for so long, for some reason, we have this idea that extremes are good. We supersize everything and then we go on these extreme diets. It's the craziest thing. And calories aren't just calories. I mean, a calorie is not just a calorie. It's not calories in versus calories out. That is such an outdated myth. And we're having a hard time convincing people of that. And, so really, if you're eating the right foods, you get to eat 2 or 3 times more of these great, amazing, incredible foods, and you don't feel deprived. But as people, as a society, I should say, because other societies don't necessarily have this, we're hardwired to think it's all or nothing.
Tana, I'm actually kind of I just collapsed on the floor with joy because you just said calorie isn't a calorie. It's not about metabolic math. There's so much going on here, and you have been through disease. You have been through illness. You look so healthy. Can you tell us a bit about how individuals who have been on this earth and lived through this great nutritional depression and a calorie is a calorie and it's just eat fewer calories, how can we shift our minds? Because it's a radical different way to perceive food and nutrients. How do we fix our minds?
Yeah, well, when I teach the classes at our clinics, so when people first start our classes, it's a little different for them. It's a big paradigm shift. So when they come in, they look at me like deer in the headlights for the first week. I give them the program and they're a little stunned because they're eating more than they've ever eaten. They're eating fats, very healthy fats, but they're eating a lot of it. And they don't know what to do with that. And so they're like, wait a minute, you want me to what? You want me to eat 4 or 5 times a day. You want me to eat fat. You want me to eat, and they're confused. And so they don't really quite get it because it's contrary to everything they've been taught about dieting. And that's why I hate the word diet. I didn't even want to put it on my book, but publishers have to have their way. So I wanted to call it the Omni Health Revolution. And but they needed a word that related to food somehow. And so, I have to convince them, look, this is what I want you to do. We're going to eliminate these foods that are hurting you, but we're going to add, for everything we eliminate, we're going to add 2 or 3 things. So it's about replace, don't erase. So there's alternatives. For everything I'm taking out of your diet, I'm going to add 2 or 3 things. You're going to have so many alternatives to pick from that you're not going to miss it. And so they're a little stunned. They don't quite know what to do. For the first week, they're a little confused. But this music to my ears, they come back after the first week. And if they I tell them, don't think too much. Just do what I tell you to do. I'm going to give you the format. I'm going to give you the blueprint. Just do it. So after the first week, they come back and it's music to my ears. They walk in and they almost all say the same thing. I don't understand. I'm confused. How come I'm not hungry for the first time in my life? I can't even eat all the food you're telling me to eat. Mm-hmm. And it's the first time they haven't had cravings because it's not about calories. It's about triggering the right hormones. Your body is smarter than you ever gave it credit for. So, you've got these hormones and your body is a chemistry lab and your kitchen is a pharmacy. And you have to go in there and understand that when you prepare certain foods, you're triggering these hormones that send the signal to your brain that you're full, that you're satisfied, and that you're healthy, and that it's turning on these health-promoting genes. When you eat other foods, it's triggering not only illness, but it sends the signal to your brain that you haven't eaten, even though your belt is about to burst. So you're still hungry.
Tana, I get so excited about this because it is revolutionary, and it is certainly there's a lot of work for us to continue to do. There's no shortage of employment opportunities for us because there continues to be so much misinformation. A great example, like how often do we hear, Tana, because what you just talked about, it's a chemistry lab, you're triggering. Food does so much more than just provide your body with calories, but so literally pick up any magazine off the shelf, any health-related magazine, and the first thing it will say is something along the lines of, if you eat this processed garbage, if you jog for this long, you've canceled it out. And
it's not true.
Exactly, right? Because just like you can't cancel out smoking a cigarette by jogging because it's doing all this other stuff, it's all that other stuff matters a lot.
But in fact, you're doing more harm.
Mm-hmm.
So when you over-exercise in order to burn off calories, if you do extreme exercise in order to burn calories, you're creating oxidative stress and damaging DNA. So you're actually adding fuel to the fire. I know I did it. So I used to work out 2.5 hours a day. I was thin, thought I could eat whatever I wanted. You are hurting your body if you do extreme exercise while you're eating poorly.
Can you tell us a little bit more, Tana, about biologically what's happening there? Because I think some people just like, unless they can understand why, that just seems like that can't possibly be true.
Well, what we tell people is exercise smarter, not harder. There's a lot of science and evidence now. It's not about how much you exercise, it's about the way you exercise. In fact, at our clinics, we do brain scans, and the scans for extreme exercisers, because we do a lot of professional athletes and marathon runners and things like that, they have the worst brains, and they also have the worst labs. And now that doesn't mean you can't be a professional athlete. I'm not telling people they can't enjoy. I do karate. I do a lot of things. But you have to do it in a way that's smart. Number one, don't overdo it. Number two, know what to do to counterbalance it. Eat correctly, take the right supplements, get the right sleep. You have to do things to negate those effects, because some people don't understand what oxidative stress is. It's a little like if you think about a car outside that's been sitting for too long, when rust starts to form on it. Okay, that's oxidation. It's the breakdown. So think of rust happening in your body. I'm just giving you a very simple example, but that's oxidation happening in your body. That's why we take antioxidants. Okay, that's why we want you to eat food that's full of antioxidants. It's to counterbalance the effects of that oxidation happening in your body. Well, when you over-exercise, you speed up that process. You also damage DNA, something you don't want to do. That's how your cells repair themselves. So you don't want to damage that DNA. So you want to exercise in a smart way. But if you're over exercising and you're eating really bad, you're like really accelerating that aging process.
Tana, and it is so important to get this message out there, because when we look at like what is a common approach people take, and I've said this before, so I apologize, listeners, if it's getting redundant, but people keep doing it, so we gotta keep saying it, is someone says, okay, I want to get healthy and I want to burn some fat. So Tana, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wake up 2 hours early, okay, strike one, and then I'm going to go jog for 2 hours in the time I should have been sleeping. And then that's going to cause me to crave processed sugars and starches all throughout the day. So I'm going to eat more of those. Strike one, strike two, strike three. They are trying harder and doing worse.
And going backwards, right. So actually in my book, I talk about mimicking calorie restriction. People are totally confused. I don't have time to go into the story. It's a cool story about these gorillas and this thing they did at Cleveland Metro Park Zoo. It's amazing. But basically mimicking calorie restriction requires 5 processes. And what it is eating smarter calories, so eating healthier calories like we talked about. You get to eat more if you eat the right kinds. It's about sleeping your way to the top. Okay, so you actually get thinner, smarter, and happier if you sleep more. So, and if you don't manage your stress, it will kill you early. There's no question about it. So I talk in my book about assessing and how to manage stress. And then you must exercise smarter. So not harder, but smarter. And then also I talk about the supplements that will help you to bridge that gap. You cannot diet or exercise your way out of, let me take that back. You can't supplement your way out of a bad diet or too much exercise, but the supplements can bridge the gap.
And also, Tana, it does. And is it, another way I've heard people describe it, which is, again, we really want to steer away from any idea that you can just take pills and powders and you'll be all set. Definitely don't want that. However, like if you have like if you're bleeding, like if you have a cut on your arm and you're just bleeding, like there might be some temporary things you need to do temporarily to stop the bleeding right now that you won't need to do long term, but in the short term, you need to do. And is that kind of what maybe supplementation would do?
I call it bridging the gap. Okay, so let's face it. Like I said, you cannot supplement your way out of a bad diet. Forget that thought. But so you must eat right. You must do all those things, sleep, exercise, all that stuff. But let's face it, we don't live in a perfect society. So if you are experiencing stress at it, let's say you're in a crisis or you're experiencing stress at work or whatever, you're not sleeping for whatever reason at the time. Maybe your diet's not perfect because you're traveling. There's things going on in your life. None of us live in a vacuum. So you can manipulate and bridge that gap a little bit, if that makes sense. Let's say, some women, one of the biggest complaints we get is women don't sleep well, especially when they get close to menopause. Okay, well, a little bit of melatonin and magnesium can really help during that time. So little things like that. So there's ways to play with it and just help bridge that gap because you have to sleep. There's just no way around it. So that's what I mean by bridging the gap. It's not the end all. It's just a way to help you get there.
And Tana, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I know your message and my message are similar in another way, which is that certain foods almost can and should be thought of as supplements because they're so healthy.
Oh my gosh.
They're almost therapeutic in and of themselves.
Especially things like superfoods and spices, herbs and spices. They are my favorite thing. I load my food down with superfoods and herbs and spices because those, to clarify for people, what constitutes a superfood, it's not really technically an official term, but it's what a lot of us have adopted because what that signifies is a food that is loaded and is concentrated with phytonutrients, but has no downside. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So that's, you know that, but so that's really what we constitute as a superfood. And so things that are concentrated forms of the food. And so if you add those to things like smoothies, or in my case, I make really healthy desserts because I have kids in my house, my husband and my 10-year-old. So I have to make dessert a lot. And when I do that, I add superfoods or I add a little bit of protein and then I add, some herbs and spices. Now for kids who it's hard to get them to eat a lot of vegetables, great to add things like raw cacao and cinnamon and vanilla. Those things have a lot of nutritional value to them. So nutmeg, cloves, there's amazing power in those things. So you add those to everything you cook. So
it's so exciting, Tana, because we are always looking for something that it just seems like it's human nature. That's like, where's this pill, this powder, this yada, yada, yada. But if we can start, because this was transformative to me as I believe it was for you, when you can start to see food, like delicious, literal food as, I always joke that, you walk into a supplement store and you see this powder and there's all this marketing, there's this tagline, there are all these benefits. Like if someone just threw $10 million at marketing spinach, like the health benefits and the awesome hype we could generate around that food would be amazing.
Well, Jonathan, the reason you said there's never going to be employment issues for people like us is because the food industry is so busy, creating opportunities for us. I call us the health mafia because we have to go out and fight every day all of the marketing that's going on with unhealthy foods. Mm-hmm. And it's, it's something that's ongoing. But what I really want people to take away from this is that's our job, is to go out and fight that battle. Really what people need to understand is that this can be fun. Mm-hmm. Because when I started this, my husband loves to go out and tell people and humiliate me in a fun way, but he tells people I went from disaster to master. I did not start off cooking, okay? When he met me, I was a complete disaster. I couldn't boil water. And I really started cooking and doing this out of complete necessity because I was tired of not feeling well, because I went on this crusade, and because I had a child. As soon as I had a baby, I did not want her growing up in the same environment I did. So I grew up, really in an environment of illness, and I wanted to leave, this culture of wellness for her. So I wanted to leave her with something different than I grew up with. So I learned how to cook. But what I do is, and I bring her into it with me, I make it fun. So I'm not afraid to let her make a mess. We make it fun. We are creative. Sometimes people look at the recipes and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I'm like, you know what? So what? Just play with it. This is just a template. Mm-hmm. When I figured that out, finally, I don't have to follow a recipe exactly. It's just a template. Play with it. Mix and match. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. If you don't like something, switch it out for something else. It's just a way to go have fun and be healthy. And, let's not take it all so seriously. Let's have a good time.
And in the spirit of having a good time, Tana, I get excited, and I know you feel the same way. People probably say, well, so what, Tana, what do I eat when I'm eating this way? And it's kind of like, well, what are you eating right now? Because I can show you how you can do that in a smarter way. It's just do it smarter.
Right. So my husband, that's another thing he says is that one thing I learned how to do, again, because when you have children, and husbands are like children. So I don't know if
I'm a husband,
Jonathan, but husbands are a little like children in that if food doesn't taste good, they won't eat it. So I had to learn to take his favorite foods, some of which were not healthy, and I had to learn to make them healthy. And that's one of my gifts, is taking popular food that has not always been healthy and making it healthy. I'll take the worst recipe and I will rehab it. And so my books are all loaded. I have 300 recipes in my cookbooks, and they're all pretty much like traditional foods that people think of. Like I even have apple cobbler, and I will make it healthy. And so that's what I do. And so to get started, to get people thinking in the right way, I suggest you pick up some of those books. I'm not the only one that has them. Like I said, there's a lot of us out there doing this, but it gets you thinking in the right direction. And pretty soon you go, oh, okay, I get it. I know now what to switch out.
And I love it. And certainly there are so many circumstances and unique situations for all of us that there is no shortage of people to help and various paths to get there. So it's awesome that we're all doing this together in a health mafia, as you did. We got to come up with maybe health missionaries or something. I don't know, something.
Right.
Well, Tana, what's next for you? You've been doing so much. What's coming up next?
I am working on a new PBS show with my husband about ADD. So we are filming our new PBS show in October. It's going to be on ADD, and I am going to have a new little book on food and ADD. So what's the elimination diet? What are the recipes? And how do you help increase focus in ADD people? Excellent.
Food as medicine. Someone really smart said that a really long time ago, I think. Oh yes, Hippocrates. Yes.
Right, exactly.
It's nothing new.
Food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food, right?
Exactly.
Not medicine be thy food. Food be thy medicine.
I love it. Well, Tana, thank you so much for joining us today, folks. Obviously, you can hear the passion and the wisdom that today's guest. The book we've been talking about, folks, is the Omni Diet. Check it out. It's all good stuff. And again, that's Tana Amon, wonderful, passionate lady. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. And please remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. Chat with you soon.
Wait, don't stop listening yet.
You can get fabulous free SANE recipes over at carriebrown.com.
And don't forget your 100% free eating and exercise quick start program, as well as free, fun, daily tips delivered right into your inbox at bailorgroup.com. That's BAILOR group.com.